I worked myself to death for my wealthy wife, dying at the age of 30. At the funeral, my ice-cold CEO wife, Sophia Taylor, showed no emotion. She only said coolly to my mother-in-law, "Just a tool. Without him, the company can still run." When I opened my eyes again, I was back at 23 on the second day of our marriage. Sophia Taylor threw a struggle agreement in my face. "Sign it. Prove your worth." In front of her stunned expression, I tore the agreement to pieces. "Miss Taylor, times have changed. From today on, I have only one purpose for coming to work. Spend all your money." A crack appeared for the first time on her eternally unchanging icy face. The cold smell of disinfectant still lingered in my nose. I floated in midair, looking at myself on the ICU bed with tubes all over. The ECG flattened into a straight line. Sophia Taylor walked into the ward, took the death certificate handed to her by the doctor, and signed it. Her hand was steady, and there was no ripple on her face. The woman I had loved with all my might for 7 years didn't even shed a single tear. Outside, mother-in-law Margaret Taylor anxiously asked, "Sophia, what do we do? The whole South City project depends on him overseeing it, and now that he's gone, just a tool." Sophia Taylor cut her off, her voice colder than the air in the ICU. "Without him, the company can still turn around. Don't worry, I've already found people to take over those projects he was in charge of." It turned out that my whole life of striving and struggling was, in her eyes, nothing more than a tool that could be replaced at any time. I laughed, my soul trembling as I did. Then, I suddenly fell into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, there was a luxurious crystal chandelier. I was lying on a soft big bed, and beside me lay Sophia Taylor, 7 years younger. Her brows and eyes were delicate. Even asleep, she carried a distant, unapproachable aloofness. I was reborn. I had returned to the second day after she and I had entered into a contractual marriage. Before I could even process the fact, Sophia Taylor had already woken up. She sat up, the expensive silk robe slipping off to reveal shoulders like cold jade. The way she looked at me was exactly the same as when, in my previous life, she looked at my corpse in the ICU. No disgust, no affection, only a hollow indifference. She picked up a document from the bedside table and slapped it in my face. "Sign it." The paper hit my face. It didn't hurt, but it was deeply humiliating. It was that damned struggle agreement. In my previous life, I signed this agreement, and from then on began a life of being used like a beast of burden. The agreement required me, a top finance graduate from a 985 university, after marrying into the Taylor family, to generate $50 million in profit for the Taylor Group within 3 years. All to prove that I deserved her. How laughable. Sophia Taylor was already dressed in a business suit, looking down at me from above. "Sign it. Join the company, and prove your worth." I sat up and picked up the agreement. Under her icy gaze, I tore it in two. Tore again, until the contract became a pile of fluttering paper scraps. I said lazily, "Miss Taylor, you worked hard last night." Sophia Taylor's body went rigid. I got out of bed, ignored her stunned expression, and took a bank card out of my wallet, placing it in front of her. "This is my card number. Please transfer $1 million as pocket money first." "Ethan Johnson, are you insane?" She finally lost her composure, her voice laced with incredulous anger. I yawned and leaned against the headboard. "I'm not crazy. I just figured it out. Life is short. Enjoy it while you can." At that moment, the door was flung open and my mother-in-law Margaret Taylor rushed in, clearly having heard the commotion. She pointed at my nose and scolded, "Good for nothing. The Taylor family doesn't keep idlers. How dare you ask Sophia for money?" I spread my hands, looking innocent. "Auntie, Grandpa's will and the marriage contract both state that marital property is community property. Refuse to give money? Fine. See you in court." "You." Margaret Taylor's face turned purple with anger. Sophia Taylor's chest rose and fell violently. She stared at me so intensely it was as if she might bore 2 holes into me. A full minute passed. She gritted her teeth and picked up her phone. "Finance department, transfer $1 million into Ethan Johnson's account." Soon, my phone dinged and I received a notification of the deposit. I picked up my phone, waved it at her, and gave a brilliant smile. "Thanks, wife. Starting today, I'll do my best to spend every penny you have." Sophia Taylor was probably so angry she lost her mind. After transferring the money, she ignored me all day. It wasn't until the next morning that she coldly informed me at the dining table. Since you don't want to strive, then go work in the cultural and creative department. That's the most idle place. The cultural products department, widely regarded across the entire Taylor Group as the dumping ground and the retirement and wait to die department. The department was full of old, weak, sick, and disabled people who had gotten in through connections. They never produced any results all year and were just waiting to be laid off. In my past life, a place I avoided at all costs. Now, it was practically a paradise made just for me. All right, I accepted it gladly and finished the last sip of soy milk. What time do we start work? Do you dock pay for being late? Sophia Taylor was left speechless by me. She walked away with a cold face. I carried my wellness thermos, filled with top-quality goji berries, and clocked in at the cultural and creative department right on time. Then, to the astonishment of my colleagues, I opened my computer and started playing Do Di Ju. 5:30 in the afternoon, shut the phone off on time, get off work, and be the first person to leave the company. This went on for 3 days. It was downright refreshing. Weekend, the Taylor family gathering. I went wearing a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops. Just inside the door, I saw a man in a bespoke suit fawning over Sophia Taylor. Alexander Black, the second-generation heir of the Black Group, Sophia Taylor's ardent pursuer. He was also the one who liked to humiliate me publicly in my past life. When he saw me, like a cat smelling blood, he immediately came over. "Oh, isn't this Ethan Johnson?" He pretended to be surprised and sized me up from head to toe, his voice loud enough to be heard throughout the living room. "I heard you took a job in the cultural and creative department. Isn't that place just our company's dumping ground?" You, a grown man, went to be a garbage collector. What an achievement. The relatives around let out suppressed chuckles. My mother-in-law Margaret Taylor's face turned ashen in an instant. She looked as if she wanted to crawl into a hole. Sophia Taylor frowned, but said nothing. I picked up a cup of tea from a passing servant's tray and took a leisurely sip. "Mr. Blake, that's not quite right." Everyone's eyes focused on me. I put down the teacup. My voice was soft, but very clear. "Even trash has to be sorted." I pointed at the fruit peels and leftover food on the table. "These are kitchen waste. After processing, they can be used as fertilizer and turned from waste into treasure." I then pointed at an empty wine bottle. "This is recyclable waste. It has recycling value." Finally, I lifted my head and looked at Alexander Black with a half smile. As for some people, they neither provide nourishment nor have any regenerative value. They only emit poisonous gas and pollute the environment. Those fall under hazardous waste and need to be handled professionally to render them harmless. Mr. Black, would you agree? Alexander Black's face, with visibility to the naked eye, went from white to red, then from red to purple, and finally swelled to the color of pig liver. "You, how dare you insult me?" He trembled with anger, but couldn't retort a single word. Silence fell all around. The ridicule on the relatives' faces froze. Margaret Taylor stood with her mouth open, forgetting to temper the anger on her face. I glanced at Sophia Taylor. She was forcing back a laugh, but the uncontrollable lift at the corner of her mouth still gave away her mood. The look she gave me revealed, for the first time, a faint and unusual sparkle. I ignored them and walked straight to the buffet counter. "Excuse me, please move. Don't block me from getting the Australian lobster." Alexander Black stormed off in anger. Sophia Taylor, either to get back at me or to give me a warning, personally came to inspect the garbage dump. She crossed her arms and stared at the happy landlord window on my desktop, her expression icy. "Ethan Johnson, is this your way of lying flat?" "Pretty good." I didn't look back and tossed out a spring. "Miss Taylor, want to play around?" David Green, the department manager standing behind her, was terrified and hurried forward to defuse the situation. "Miss Taylor, our department recently took on a project, and we're planning to have Ethan Johnson handle it." The manager handed me a project dossier with a worried frown. "The City Memories IP project." I flipped through it and almost burst out laughing. The project is to design a batch of mascot dolls representing the city's landmarks. But the few things in the design drafts are all odd and ugly, deformed and hideously unattractive. They've been piled in the warehouse for over a year with no one wanting them. Isn't this just handing me an opportunity to botch the project? Perfect. As long as I can completely ruin it, I can be honorably dismissed for incompetence, and from then on achieve financial freedom and freedom in life. I was overjoyed inside, but wore a look of difficulty on my face. This looks pretty tricky. Sophia, Taylor sneered. I'll give you a week to come up with a marketing plan. If you can't handle it, get out of the company. Exactly what I wanted. At the afternoon planning meeting, I was lying in my ergonomic chair, nearly falling asleep. Colleagues one by one proposed ideas like discount promotions, bundled sales, and IP collaborations, all of which I rejected. Too tacky. When it was my turn, I cleared my throat and presented my brilliant plan. No advertising, no discounts. We'll just call it the Ugly Things Emotional Comfort line. I pointed at the grotesquely ugly G-Fangbai figurine on the PPT. Limited release, 999 pieces, each priced at $888. I've already thought up the copy. Life is bitter enough. You need something uglier than you to keep you company. It can't do anything, but it will quietly stay with you and show you how ugly it is. The main pitch is that extreme ugliness is trendy, precisely targeting contemporary young people whose mental states are a bit unstable. The entire conference room fell deathly silent. My colleagues stared in stunned disbelief, looking at me as if I were a lunatic. Department manager David Green's face had gone pale. He waved his hand in despair. Might as well try a Hail Mary. Do it the way Ethan Johnson suggested. Sophia Taylor soon learned of my plan. It said she snorted in the CEO's office for half an hour. Just wait and see how he ends up. Alexander Black found new amusement, spreading the word that I would squander the Taylor fortune and sell an ugly thing for $888. A true business genius, sarcasm. I didn't care at all, clocking in and out on the dot every day, waiting for the project to launch and then to be shown the door. 1 week later, the product quietly went live on Taylor Group's official mall. I personally attached that piece of slacker copy, then went off to goof around. Unexpectedly, in less than 10 minutes, my phone blew up. It was from the tech department. Ethan, big brother, hurry and check Weibo. That ugly thing of yours went viral. I opened Weibo. It was 5th on the trending list. Hashtag the ugly things spiritual comfort hashtag. I clicked in and saw it was all screenshots and comments from netizens. This is hilarious. This thing is so ugly my heart melted. It looks exactly like me getting up for work every day. Order placed. I feel like my mental state urgently needs something uglier than me to stabilize it. $888? I didn't buy a doll. I bought my cyber mouthpiece. It says I'm so ugly. I want to die for me. You're not alone upstairs. Looking at it, I actually feel like I look better. Under the product link, the comments section exploded. The limited run of $999 sold out instantly. Scalpers drove the resale price through the roof on secondhand platforms, pushing it up to $3,000 a piece. The company's e-commerce backend was overwhelmed and crashed from the sudden surge in traffic. The entire tech department is working overtime on emergency repairs. I was staring at my phone in a daze when the office door was suddenly flung open. Sophia Taylor stood in the doorway holding a report, and behind her the chief financial officer, Michael Brown, looked ecstatic. Miss Taylor, the cultural and creative department has exploded. In 1 hour, a single product sales exceeded $1 million, and it's still climbing. Sophia Taylor ignored him. Her eyes were fixed on me, and on that icy face was an unprecedented shock and bewilderment. She walked up to me step by step and slapped the sales report in her hand onto my desk. At the top of the report, in the column labeled Project Leader, my name glaringly appeared. Ethan Johnson. She stared at me, asking word by word. How did you do it? I looked up from the landlord card game screen, my face full of annoyance. How would I know? I just wanted to mess it up. Sigh. The day I lie flat after being fired seems to have moved further away. Sophia Taylor didn't leave. She moved a chair and sat opposite me, just staring at me like that. I kept playing Do Di Ju, and she kept watching. 1 hour later, I finally couldn't take it anymore. Miss Taylor, do you need something? She pushed a document in front of me, the postmortem report for this ugly thing project. She stayed up all night to do it. I reviewed your entire marketing plan. There was a hint of curiosity in her voice she hadn't even noticed herself. From the pricing strategy, to copywriting, to scarcity-driven limited releases, every step precisely hit the rebellious and self-mocking psychology of today's young people. This isn't a blind cat stumbling on a dead mouse. This is a textbook-level precise insight into user psychology. She lifted her head, and those beautiful eyes were full of confusion. "Ethan Johnson, who exactly are you?" I almost laughed out loud. I asked myself that same question in my previous life. A go-getter? A simp? Or just a hard-working, uncomplaining tool? Right now, I'm just a worthless person who wants to lie flat. I turned off the game and stretched. Maybe I played too many games just thinking randomly. She obviously didn't believe me. I couldn't be bothered to explain, put on my headphones, and opened another mobile game. Wait until I finish this match. By the way, honey, send me $50 on Venmo so I could buy a new skin and carry us. Sophia Taylor's face visibly darkened. She seemed about to slam the door and leave, but she forced herself to stay. She just sat there, staring at my phone screen. I picked a jungler and said, just playing for fun. Win or lose doesn't matter. But my fingers were honest. Prediction, positioning, entry, finishing. My mechanics were sharp, my macro awareness ahead of the curve, always showing up at the most critical place at the most critical moment. 20 minutes later, amid my rookie teammates' praise of Pro 666, I led them to a dominant comeback. I took off my headphones and stretched. What were we talking about? Oh, that project. Just lucky, really. I held out my phone's payment QR code to her. Sweetheart, transfer the skincare money. Sophia Taylor watched me in silence, and after several seconds, she took out her phone and transferred the money to me. When she left, her expression was as tangled and complicated as a knotted ball of yarn. She began to suspect that she might never have truly understood this nominal husband. What I didn't know was that after she returned to the office, she immediately called her assistant. Check all records of Ethan Johnson since university. I want everything. The more detailed, the better. And I was using the $50 she had just transferred to buy a handsome skin and start a new game. So good. The explosive success of the ugly thing project turned me into a company celebrity. It also made me a thorn in Alexander Black's side. He probably thought that as long as I stayed at the Taylor Group for one more day, he'd never have a chance. So he laid a poisonous trap. On Monday morning, Taylor Group stock hit the daily limit down as soon as the market opened. An explosive piece of news spread throughout the entire financial circle. Taylor Group's core business secrets for the next quarter appear to have been leaked. Competitors are positioning ahead of time, and Taylor Group may face losses of tens of billions of dollars. Once the news broke, the market panicked and investors frantically sold off. The company instantly plunged into the biggest crisis since its founding. A series of forged pieces of evidence were anonymously leaked to the media by insiders. My email exchanges with executives of a rival company. A transfer record of a large sum in my bank account. All the evidence pointed to me, this son-in-law husband of the CEO, one of the few people who had access to the core secrets. In an instant, I became the corporate spy who colluded with outsiders to retaliate against the Taylor family. Taylor Group urgently convened a board meeting. I was invited into the conference room. Mother-in-law Margaret Taylor was the first to strike. She slammed a newspaper hard into my face. Ungrateful wretch. I knew you, this good-for-nothing, had ill intentions. She pointed at my nose, spitting and fuming. We, the Taylor family, fed and pampered you, and this is how you repay us. Sophia, divorce him immediately, call the police. Send him to jail. The company's executives also chimed in one after another. Miss Taylor, this matter has had an extremely bad impact. He must be severely punished. That's right, we must give the shareholders and the market an explanation. At that moment, the meeting room door was pushed open. Alexander Black entered with the demeanor of a savior. Behind him followed his father, John Black, chairman of the Black Group. Everyone, there's no need to panic. Alexander Black's gaze swept over the room, finally resting triumphantly on me. I've already figured it out. The one who leaked the information is this ungrateful piece of trash. He placed a stack of more detailed evidence on the table. Mrs. Taylor, Sophia, as long as you clean this stain out of your house, the Black family is willing to invest immediately to help the Taylor Group through its difficulties. His condition was simple. I leave, and he takes my place. Everyone looked at Sophia Taylor. She was pushed into the eye of the storm, pale, her lips pressed tight. The pressure of the entire conference room rested solely on her. She looked at the man in the corner, the one who had seemed sleepwalking from start to finish and had even yawned. Her mind was in fierce turmoil. Reason told her the evidence was conclusive. Ethan Johnson was the ringleader, but intuition planted a seed of doubt. Is he the one who can create the ugly thing miracle? Who can use garbage sorting to shut Alexander Black up? Who can show astonishing skills while playing games? Ethan Johnson? Would he be so stupid as to use such a low-level method to frame himself? Sophia Taylor took a deep breath and walked up to me. She asked me coldly, "Ethan Johnson, do you have anything to say?" I stood up from the chair and stretched my slightly stiff neck. What did she say? I glanced around, looking at those faces that looked like they wanted to eat me. Are you done? If you're done, I'm going back to catch up on sleep. My attitude completely enraged Alexander Black. He pointed at me, grinning triumphantly, and said, "Still being stubborn with death looming. The evidence is all right here, and you still want to argue?" Oh, that's right. As if I suddenly remembered something, I took a USB drive out of my pocket and casually tossed it onto the conference table. The USB slid across the smooth surface of the table, making a crisp sound. This is just for your amusement. Everyone was stunned. I yawned and explained leisurely. Last week, there was some sneaky person who slipped in my office while I was taking a nap. They were banging on the keyboard clackety-clack, waking me up. I was annoyed, so I planted a miniature camera in the potted plant on my desk. I originally wanted to catch him and make him pay me for emotional damages. In the conference room, everyone's expressions froze. The technician immediately plugged in the USB drive, and a clear image appeared on the projection screen. The footage was in my office. An employee in the cultural and creative department named Leo sneaked in furtively and sat down on my computer. He deftly opened my email, forged messages, and, using technical means, photoshopped a screenshot of a bank transfer. Even clearer was that the video recorded his call with Alexander Black. "Mr. Black, it's all done. The emails and transfer records are forged, flawless. Good. That money has already been transferred to your Swiss account. Go to the airport now." The video finished playing. The whole place fell deathly silent. Not a sound could be heard. Alexander Black's face was even more spectacular than when I had just compared him to hazardous waste. The blood drained from his face in an instant, leaving him ashen. He let out a thud and slumped into the chair, murmuring, "Impossible. Impossible." Margaret Taylor stood with her mouth agape, looking at me, then at Alexander Black, completely stunned. I stretched in a big, lazy yawn, stood up, and prepared to leave. All right, can I go back to sleep now? Wasting an entire precious afternoon of my sleep over this stupid little thing. I passed by Sophia Taylor, and my steps faltered. I turned my head and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, "See, I told you already. Don't keep forcing me to go to work. There are too many people at the company, everyone's scheming and plotting. It seriously affects my sleep quality." After speaking, I didn't look at her again and walked straight out of the conference room, leaving behind a mess, and that woman watching my back, her eyes full of shock, guilt, and a kind of burning light she herself couldn't quite describe. Crisis averted, I rose to mythical status in a single battle. Everyone at the Taylor Group looked at me differently. The former useless live-in son-in-law had become the hidden master who cleans the floor. Sophia Taylor, to reward me, for the first time showed me a softened expression. "Ethan Johnson, what reward do you want?" She was in my nap room, asking a bit awkwardly. I was putting on a sleep mask, ready to take a nap, and thought for a moment when I heard her. "Then give me a Lamborghini." Sophia Taylor's mouth twitched noticeably. I took off the blindfold and added seriously, "Our family's grocery run car is too slow. We can't even make it to the market in time to grab fresh produce." She was probably choked by my bizarre excuse. She was silent for a long moment before squeezing out a single word through her teeth. "Okay." The next day, a brand new Lamborghini was parked at the villa gate. I got the car keys and hadn't had time to be happy when Sophia Taylor handed me a document. It was an offer letter, but you have to promise me one condition. Her expression was serious. "From today on, you'll be my special advisor to the CEO. You can set your salary however you want, but you must attend all senior level meetings for every company project rated A or above. This is forcing me to compete even harder." I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. I grabbed the car keys and went out for a drive. The Lamborghini's engine really was music to the ears. At the executive strategy meeting the next day, I was still wearing swim shorts and flip-flops, and I found a corner in the last row of the conference room, ready to doze off. A project manager was passionately presenting a heavily invested new retail project on a PowerPoint. What online-offline integration, what big data empowerment, what immersive experience, it's all hyped to the skies. The directors kept nodding repeatedly. Sophia Taylor, however, frowned. She suddenly spoke, calling my name. Ethan Johnson, consultant. Do you have any opinions? Dozens of pairs of eyes in the room immediately focused on me. I sleepily looked up and rubbed my eyes. Me? I glanced at the PPT and casually asked 3 questions. First, why should a user come to you instead of going to someone else? Second, once they come, why should they buy from you instead of just browsing? Third, after buying, why should they come back and repurchase instead of it being a one-off sale? I leaned back in my chair and summed up. 3 core questions haven't been figured out. What kind of damn PPT is this? You're just wasting the company's electricity. The whole room fell silent. The project manager, standing on stage, suddenly broke out in a cold sweat across his forehead. His mouth hung open and he couldn't say a word. The directors who had been nodding repeatedly a moment ago also fell into thought, their expressions growing grave. I ignored them, put on my sleep mask, and went back to my nap. I didn't see it. From the head seat, Sophia Taylor looked at my profile, her eyes growing brighter and brighter. It was the kind of glow one has upon discovering a peerless treasure. Alexander Black, due to a business frame-up, was placed under house arrest by the Black family and was quiet for the time being. Sophia Taylor's attitude toward me also became more and more subtle by the day. She no longer forces me to strive, but the way she looks at me grows ever more intent. This evening was an important contract signing banquet for the Taylor Group. As the president's special advisor and her legal husband, I was forcibly dragged along as her escort. At the banquet, Sophia Taylor wore a bespoke evening gown, holding a wine glass as she mingled effortlessly among the various business magnates. I, meanwhile, hid in the buffet area, single-mindedly dealing with Australian lobsters and king crabs. Halfway through, a commotion suddenly broke out in the hall. I looked up and saw Sophia Taylor's face as white as a sheet. One hand pressed to her stomach, her body wavering. People around her were in a panic. Several executives rushed over, flustered, asking, "Miss Taylor, what's wrong?" And Alexander Black, who hadn't completely collapsed yet, like someone clutching at a straw, was about to dash forward to play the hero and save the beauty. I put down the crab leg in my hand and frowned. This scene, how familiar it was. In my previous life, it was at a banquet just like this when she suddenly developed acute gastritis. At the time, I was frantic, dropping everything, carrying her out of the hall, and rushing her to the hospital, tending to her tirelessly through the whole night. When she woke, she only said 2 words to me. "Thank you," as if she were thanking a dutiful assistant. This time, I did not move. I simply calmly took out my phone and dialed 120. "Hello, is this the emergency center?" "The Ritz-Carlton Banquet Hall in the Central Business District. There is a woman having an acute gastritis attack and needs an ambulance." I clearly and accurately gave the address and the condition. 10 minutes later, medical staff arrived. I stepped forward and said to the emergency doctor, "Patient Sophia Taylor, female, 24 years old, had a history of chronic gastritis and is allergic to cephalosporin antibiotics. Please take note." Being supported, sweating from the pain, Sophia Taylor suddenly lifted her head in agony and looked at me in shock. She probably never knew that I remembered her medical history and drug allergies so clearly. The medical staff lifted her onto the stretcher. Before getting into the ambulance, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her hand was very cold, and her voice sounded especially weak from the pain. "Ethan Johnson, aren't you coming with me?" I looked down at her, then gestured toward the banquet hall and the table laden with dishes I hadn't had the chance to enjoy. "I'm not full yet." I pried her hand away, my tone even. "Don't worry, it's just acute gastritis. You won't die. You miss Taylor, after all." I watched the ambulance's red lights flash away, then turned and sat back down at my dining table. I picked up the crab leg I'd set down earlier and resumed eating. It tasted really good. That night, Sophia Taylor lay alone in the hospital VIP room, hooked up to N4. She looked at the empty ward. Her phone was silent with no messages, not a single call. She suddenly remembered many years ago when she was ill like this, and the boy named Ethan Johnson stood anxiously by her side, sleepless through the night. A huge sense of loss and a strange heartache, for the first time, completely overwhelmed her. She covered her face, her shoulders trembling silently. Ever since the incident at the hospital, the atmosphere in the Taylor household completely changed. My mother-in-law, Margaret Taylor, made a complete 180 turn in her attitude toward me. She personally cooked soup for me and brought it to my room. "Ethan, come, drink some soup. It will help you recover." She even handed me a black card. "Before it was Mom's fault, my eyes were bad. I didn't see how good you are. Take this money and spend it however you like. The password is your birthday." I was wearing headphones watching a new American TV series and didn't even look up. "Auntie, get to the point. Don't delay me from watching my show." I pushed the car back. What a joke. I now have pocket money for my wife and drive a Lamborghini. Do I still need her petty favors? Margaret Taylor was snubbed and left in a huff. As for Sophia Taylor, she switched on her clumsy pursue the husband mode. She began leaving work on time every day, which was nothing short of a miracle for a workaholic. She even walked into the kitchen, stood over a recipe, and wanted to cook for me herself. The result was that she nearly set the kitchen on fire, and what she made came out blackened and unrecognizable. I took a bite and nearly died on the spot. I looked at her face, smudged with soot from the bottom of the pot, but full of expectation, and earnestly suggested, "Let's just order takeout. That 3 Michelin-star French restaurant out west is good. I'll pick, you reimburse me." Her face fell instantly. On the weekend, she handed me 2 movie tickets, fidgeting as she did. "Ethan Johnson, tonight, would you accompany me to the movies?" I took them and glanced at the stubs. "Before sunrise? Oh, mercy. That's so fake, boring." I took out my phone and fiddled with it a few times. I switched it to Interstellar, a sci-fi film. After you watch it, I can write you a reflection on how the film inspires future technology trends report. Is 3,000 words enough? Sophia Taylor laughed through her tears, helplessness filling her beautiful eyes. "I'm not asking you to write a report." I wore an "I get it" expression and patted her on the shoulder. "Understood. Just going through the motions, the procedure needs to be followed. Miss Taylor, rest assured, I'll make it profound and forward-looking." No matter how she hinted or signaled, I could use a perfect set of corporate slave thinking and work logic to deconstruct all her romantic bubbles. She invited me for a walk in the park, and I asked if she was there to inspect an urban greening project. She gave me a Patek Philippe watch. I asked her if it was a new company perk and whether it could be cashed out. Finally, after I once again interpreted her candlelit dinner invitation as a discussion about the company's nighttime security issues, Sophia Taylor broke down. For the first time in front of me, she stamped her foot like a little girl, furious. "Ethan Johnson, can't you just treat this as a date?" I looked at her slightly reddened eyes and lounged lazily against the sofa. "Miss Taylor, dates are part of the KPIs too. May I ask what the evaluation criteria for this date are?" The momentum between offense and defense had completely reversed. Now, it was her turn to experience the powerlessness and frustration I felt in my past life. The good times didn't last long. My leisurely life of living off someone else was soon shattered. Alexander Black's family, egged on by foreign capital, launched a fierce hostile takeover of the Taylor Group. They bet everything, nearly staking their entire fortune, and together with Wall Street capital titans, carried out an all-out encirclement of the Taylor Group. The Taylor Group's stock hit consecutive daily limit downs, its market value evaporating by tens of billions of dollars. Partner banks came calling one after another to demand loan repayments, and suppliers cut off raw material supplies. More devastatingly, the core technology team that Taylor Group prided itself on was poached overnight by rivals with triple the salary, taking away most of the staff. The funding chain broke, and technology patents were ambushed. Taylor Group, this commercial edifice, became perilously unstable overnight. Lynn's father, Robert Taylor, received the news and was so angry he fell ill on the spot and was hospitalized. Mother-in-law Margaret Taylor was completely distraught, washing her face with tears all day long. In the Taylor family villa, gloom hung heavy. At the emergency family meeting, Everyone sighed and moaned. Several uncles had even begun discussing declaring bankruptcy and liquidating assets, trying to salvage whatever they could. I was sitting in the corner, calculating whether my Lamborghini would be repossessed after the Taylor family's bankruptcy and whether I'd still have any pocket money. Suddenly, Margaret Taylor rushed up to me and with a plop, dropped to her knees. She grabbed my hand, crying copiously. "Ethan, Mom's begging you. Please save the Taylor family. We know you have the ability. You must have a way." I frowned. "That's serious? I only wanted a freeload. Never thought the rice bowl would break. Get up and speak." I helped her up. Just then, Sophia Taylor walked up to me. She had lost a lot of weight over the past few days. Her face was frighteningly pale, and the once cool eyes were full of bloodshot veins. She just looked at me like that, her eyes red all around, her voice trembling from extreme suppression. "Ethan Johnson." She spoke my name. Then, in front of all the relatives, she slowly bent that waist that had been proud for 24 years toward me. "I beg you, as long as you can help the Taylor family get through this crisis, I'll agree to anything." This was the first time she had used the word beg with me. It was also the first time she had let go of all her pride and iciness in front of me. I looked at her, the woman who made me feel a tangled mix of love and hate in my past life, and now both annoyed and amused in this one. We were silent for a long time. I let out a long sigh. What a pain. I stood up and brushed the dust off my trousers. My meal ticket can't be so unstable. The next day, I sat down in the CEO's office of the Taylor Group. Sophia Taylor, the once aloof iceberg CEO, is now my temporary assistant, responsible for bringing me tea, pouring water, and carrying out orders. All the company's senior executives were gathered in the conference room, like a group of students awaiting judgment. I looked at the huge electronic screen showing Taylor Group's stock K-line glowing green and said only one word. Sell. What? Everyone was stunned. Dump all non-core assets. Sell whatever can be sold, including the options and shares in your hands. Create an illusion of cash flow and make our opponents believe we've completely given up resisting. My first order left everyone agape. Isn't that the same as committing suicide? Sophia Taylor bit her lip and was the first to step forward to support me. Do it the way he said. My second instruction was to have the PR department release the news. Just say we've reached a technical cooperation agreement with Europe's DTS company and are ready for an all-out fight. Force them to act early, disrupt their rhythm. The third instruction was addressed to Chief Financial Officer Michael Brown. All the funds we've cashed out, when they frantically buy our stock and drive the price to its highest, use every last cent, without leaving a single penny, to short the overseas capital behind them. Cut off the route. Every one of my orders was baffling, almost insane, but with Sophia Taylor's full support, they were carried out without question. For the next 3 days, I hardly slept. The entire Taylor Group became my battlefield. I used all the knowledge and experience I had accumulated in my past life and my memory of future financial trends to accurately predict every move my opponents would make, then set one trap after another in succession. 3 days later, the Hong Kong market closed. The dust settled. In the conference room, everyone stared at the big screen, not a sound to be heard. On the screen, all the stocks linked to the Blake family collapsed across the board, while that once arrogant Wall Street capital saw its share price cut in half, suffering heavy losses. Taylor Group stock, after hitting bottom, strongly rebounded, rising steadily and more than doubling its market value. Not only did we thwart the takeover, we also used the rules to turn the tables and plunder the rivals' coffers, earning Taylor Group nearly $10 billion in profit. We won. Thunderous applause and cheers erupted in the conference room. Everyone looked at me with godlike eyes. Margaret Taylor held Robert Taylor, crying tears of joy. That night, the Taylor family held a grand celebration banquet. I became the center of attention. Everyone gathered around me, saying flattering things. Sophia Taylor walked up to me holding a glass of red wine. She looked at me, her eyes full of uncontainable love, admiration, and gratitude. "Ethan Johnson, thank you." I took the wine glass she handed me, but did not drink. I took a document out of my suit pocket and handed it to her. It wasn't a project report, nor any kind of reward application. It was the divorce agreement I had already signed. I watched her face go instantly rigid, speaking in a calm tone. "Miss Tyler, your company has been saved. My job is done as well. Pleasure doing business. I paused for a moment, then added the final line. Never see you again. Sophia Taylor's face went completely bloodless in an instant. Her hand trembled as she picked up the divorce agreement. Staring at my large, bold signature on it, her tears finally burst forth. No. She tore the contract to pieces like a child whose beloved toy had been taken away. Paper scraps flew everywhere, like a desperate snowfall. For the first time in front of so many people, she lost control and cried loudly, without caring about her image. Ethan Johnson, you can't leave. I won't allow you to go. She cried and shouted, then turned and ran out of the banquet hall. A few minutes later, she ran back. In her hand, she was holding another document. She rushed up to me and slammed that document down hard on the table. It's a transfer of assets agreement. These are all my personal assets, every stock, property, and cash under my name. I'm giving them all to you. I don't want them. I don't want anything. She grabbed my arm, crying with tears streaking her face, her makeup ruined. Sorry, it was my fault before. I don't want any tool man. I don't want any ICCO. I only want my husband. Ethan Johnson, please don't leave me. I looked at her, this woman who had shed all her cold pretenses and was crying like a child. The hatred of the past life, the grievances of this one, at this moment, all seemed to become less important. I sighed, took the thick asset transfer agreement from her hand, and picked up the pen on the table. She watched me nervously, holding her breath, thinking I was about to sign it. I added a line in the blank space at the end of the agreement. Additional clause. Party A, Sophia Taylor, must unconditionally support Party B, Ethan Johnson, his slack-off career, including but not limited to providing sufficient gaming funds, refraining from disturbing Party B during nap time for any reason, and being responsible for running dungeons for Party B's game character at least 3 times a week. I finished writing, then signed my name. Then, to the shock of everyone present, I pulled her into my arms. I leaned close to her ear and said softly, "Remember, it was you who begged me to stay with tears in your eyes. From now on, you don't decide anything in this house. I do." On a sunny, bright afternoon, I was lying on a lounger by the villa's pool, wearing sunglasses and leisurely playing games. Sophia Taylor walked over in a beautiful dress, holding a glass of freshly squeezed juice, and gently brought it to my lips. "Honey, have some juice. What do you want for dinner? I'll ask Jean-Ma to make it for you." I took a sip of juice, my eyes still fixed on the screen. "Anything." She sat down beside me and handed me another document. "By the way, husband, could you take a look at this multi-billion-dollar acquisition contract for me when you have time?" She leaned in and gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Give me a pretty I don't care kind of suggestion, okay?" I looked in her eyes, full of love and dependence, and smiled. This kind of silver spoon is the tastiest to eat.